8 signs of a stupid woman. You might be guilty of these too. Have you ever felt like the world around us keeps getting noisier, faster, and more chaotic? We're bombarded with opinions, distractions, and expectations every single day. But how often do we stop to ask ourselves, am I living wisely? Am I thinking clearly? Now, before you think I'm about to hand out life advice like I've got it all figured out, trust me, I don't. Let's look back at some ancient wisdom that's been around for thousands of years. You see, the Stoics, some of the greatest philosophers in history, believed that true wisdom isn't about being perfect or knowing everything. It's about understanding yourself, staying grounded, and living in harmony with what you can control. But what if you're not wise? What if certain habits or mindsets are quietly holding you back from reaching your potential without you even realizing it? Today, we're diving into something that's going to make you stop, think, and maybe even laugh a little. We're talking about the 8 signs of a stupid woman, according to Stoic wisdom. Now, before anyone gets defensive, this isn't about labeling anyone or tearing people down. In fact, Stoicism teaches the exact opposite. It's all about reflecting on our own lives, spotting behaviors that might not serve us, and taking responsibility for becoming better. The truth is, these signs can apply to any of us, regardless of gender, age, or background. And don't worry, I'll keep it real with you. By the end of this, you might just walk away with a fresh perspective and a few tools to help you live a wiser, more fulfilling life. Ready? Let's get into it. Sign 1: emotional volatility and lack of self-control. Let's kick things off with something we've all seen, and, let's be honest, probably been guilty of ourselves: emotional volatility. You know the type. 1 second, everything's fine, and the next, the smallest inconvenience sets off an explosion of anger, tears, or drama. It's like watching a storm roll in out of nowhere. Now, according to Stoic philosophy, one of the greatest signs of wisdom is emotional resilience, the ability to stay calm and composed no matter what life throws at you. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most famous Stoics, once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." In other words, it's not what happens to you that matters. It's how you respond. But emotional volatility, that's the exact opposite. It's letting every little thing control you. It's reacting without thinking, being swept away by emotions, and giving up your inner peace because someone said something rude, or traffic was bad, or your plans didn't go perfectly. Let me give you an example. Picture someone in line at a coffee shop. The barista messes up their order. Maybe they put oat milk instead of almond milk. Instead of calmly pointing out the mistake, this person starts yelling, making a scene, and ruining everyone's day, including their own. That's emotional volatility in action. It's a lack of self-control. And according to Stoicism, it's a sign of poor inner discipline and, frankly, a lack of wisdom. Why does this happen? It's because some people haven't learned how to separate their emotions from their reactions. The Stoics taught that emotions aren't the problem. It's natural to feel frustrated or disappointed. The problem is letting those emotions dictate your behavior. So how do we work on this? How do we break free from emotional volatility? The first step is awareness. When you feel yourself starting to get worked up, stop and ask yourself, is this worth my peace? 9 times out of 10, the answer is no. The second step is practicing what the Stoics called the dichotomy of control. Focus only on what you can control: your thoughts, your actions, your responses. Everything else? Let it go. If the barista messed up your coffee, politely ask them to fix it. If someone cuts you off in traffic, take a deep breath and let them go. These little moments add up, and over time, they strengthen your ability to stay calm under pressure. And here's the thing. Emotional stability isn't just about you. It impacts everyone around you, your family, your friends, your coworkers. When you're calm and composed, you create an environment where people feel safe and respected. That's the kind of energy that makes people want to be around you. So, if you catch yourself overreacting or letting your emotions control you, don't beat yourself up. Just remember that Stoic wisdom is a practice. It's something you work on every day. And every time you choose calm over chaos, you're stepping closer to a wiser, more grounded version of yourself. Sign 2. Gossiping and idle talk. All right, let's move on to our second sign. Gossiping and idle talk. This one hits close to home because, let's face it, we've all been there. Whether it's whispering about someone's drama at work, scrolling through celebrity gossip, or dissecting a friend's personal life, gossip has a way of pulling us in. But according to Stoic wisdom, it's a big red flag when it comes to a lack of wisdom. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, said it best. Be silent for the most part, or if you speak, say only what is necessary and in a few words. That might sound extreme, but hear me out. Gossip isn't just harmless chatter, it's a sign that someone is focused on the wrong things. Things that don't matter, things they can't control, or things that distract from their own growth. Why do people gossip? Often it comes from a place of insecurity or boredom. Talking about someone else's flaws, failures, or private life can make us feel better about our own. It's a way of deflecting attention from ourselves, of avoiding self-reflection. But here's the kicker. Gossip doesn't make us better people. It doesn't help us grow. It doesn't solve any problems. In fact, it often creates more drama and negativity. Let me share a quick story. A woman I once worked with loved to gossip. She knew everyone's business, and she always had some juicy story to share. At first, people were drawn to her because, let's be honest, gossip can be entertaining. But over time, they started to realize something. If she was talking about others behind their backs, what was she saying about them when they weren't around? Slowly, people stopped trusting her. Her reputation went from fun to talk to be careful what you say around her. That's the thing about gossip. It might feel good in the moment, but it damages relationships in the long run. It creates division instead of connection. And for what? A few minutes of entertainment? So how do we move past this? How do we rise above the temptation to gossip? The Stoics believed that the key lies in focusing on what's meaningful. If you're tempted to talk about someone else's drama, ask yourself, is this helping me grow? Is this helping anyone? Instead, try steering the conversation towards something productive. Talk about ideas, goals, or things you're excited about. And here's a challenge for you. Practice listening more than you speak. When someone comes to you with gossip, gently redirect the conversation. You don't have to judge them or lecture them. Just set an example by choosing not to engage. At the end of the day, gossiping is like eating junk food. It might feel good in the moment, but it leaves you feeling empty and unsatisfied. Choosing meaningful conversations, on the other hand, nourishes your mind and soul. And trust me, people will notice when you're the person who uplifts others instead of tearing them down. So, if gossiping is a habit you struggle with, don't worry, you're not alone. But start today by making a conscious effort to focus on what truly matters. Your words have power, so use them wisely. Sign 3. being driven by external validation. All right, let's get real for a second. How often do you find yourself doing something just to impress someone else? Maybe you bought that expensive bag because you wanted to look successful, or you posted a picture on Instagram and kept checking back to see how many likes it got. It's so easy to get caught up in seeking approval from the outside world, but according to Stoic wisdom, this is a major sign of a lack of inner strength and wisdom. The Stoics believe that true happiness comes from within, not from what others think of us. Epictetus put it bluntly: if you are ever tempted to look for outside approval, realize that you have compromised your integrity. Ouch, right. But there's a powerful truth in that. When we chase external validation, we're handing over control of our happiness to other people. And here's the kicker: no matter how much approval you get, it's never enough. Think about it. You can get compliments, likes, or applause, but if you don't believe in yourself, none of it will make you feel truly happy. Why? Because external validation is temporary. It's like trying to fill a bucket with a hole in the bottom. The bucket will never stay full if it's broken. Let me give you an example. I once knew someone who seemed to have it all together. She dressed perfectly, her social media was flawless, and she always made sure everyone around her knew how amazing her life was. But when we got close, she admitted something heartbreaking. She felt empty. She spent so much time trying to be perfect for other people that she didn't even know who she really was anymore. That's what happens when we live for the applause. We lose sight of what actually matters: our own values, passions, and purpose. The Stoics taught that instead of focusing on what others think of us, we should focus on living a virtuous life. They believed that the only opinion that truly matters is our own, whether we can look ourselves in the mirror and feel proud of the person we're becoming. So how do we stop seeking external validation? 1. Start with self-awareness. Pay attention to the choices you're making and ask yourself, am I doing this because it's meaningful to me, or because I want someone else to approve? If it's the latter, take a step back and reevaluate. 2. Focus on your values. Write down the things that are most important to you: kindness, honesty, growth, or anything else you hold dear. Use those as your compass instead of letting other people's opinions guide you. 3. Limit social media. Platforms like Instagram and TikTok can be fun, but they're also huge triggers for seeking validation. Set boundaries for how much time you spend on them, and remember that likes and followers don't define your worth. When you stop chasing external validation and start focusing on living authentically, you'll feel a sense of freedom you've never experienced before. You'll realize that the only person you need to impress is you. Sign 4. Blaming others and avoiding responsibility. Now let's talk about a habit that's not just unwise, it's downright toxic: blaming others and refusing to take responsibility for your own life. If there's one thing the Stoics were crystal clear about, it's this: you are responsible for your own happiness, success, and growth. No one else. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, said it best: you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. In other words, you can't control what other people do or what happens to you, but you can control how you respond. But here's the thing: when we blame others for our problems, we're giving away our power. It might feel good in the moment. It's not my fault, it's theirs. But all we're doing is creating a victim mindset. And guess what? Victims don't grow. Think about it. If you always blame your boss for your lack of career growth, your parents for your bad habits, or your partner for your unhappiness, you're avoiding the one person who can actually change your situation: you. Let me share a story. There was a woman I knew who constantly complained about her life. Her job was stressful, her friends didn't support her, and her partner didn't appreciate her. But every time someone tried to give her advice, she had an excuse. My boss is impossible to work with. Or, my friends don't understand me. She refused to see her role in her problems. Eventually, her friends started pulling away, tired of the negativity. Instead of fixing her issues, she blamed them for leaving her. This kind of mindset is the exact opposite of what the Stoics taught. They believed that taking responsibility for your life is the foundation of wisdom. When you own your choices, both the good ones and the bad ones, you empower yourself to create real change. So, how can we stop blaming others and start taking responsibility? 1. Ask yourself tough questions. When something goes wrong, instead of pointing fingers, ask yourself, what could I have done differently? This isn't about self-blame. It's about self-awareness. 2. Focus on solutions, not problems. Blaming others keeps you stuck in the problem. Instead, shift your energy toward finding a way forward. 3. Own your mistakes. We all mess up, and that's okay. The important thing is to admit when you're wrong and learn from it. The Stoics believed that mistakes are just opportunities to grow. When you stop blaming others and take ownership of your life, you'll feel a sense of strength and control you never thought possible. You'll realize that no matter what challenges you face, you have the power to overcome them. And here's the truth. Life isn't always fair. Things will happen that are out of your control. But as the Stoics taught, it's not the events themselves that define you. It's how you respond to them. And when you take responsibility for your own happiness and growth, you unlock the door to a wiser, more fulfilling life. Sign 5. Prioritizing pleasure over purpose. Let's dive into one of the most common pitfalls in today's world: chasing pleasure at the expense of purpose. Whether it's binge-watching your favorite shows, spending hours scrolling on social media, or constantly seeking comfort and entertainment, this habit is a hallmark of a life that's not aligned with wisdom. The Stoics had a lot to say about this, and for good reason. When we prioritize pleasure over purpose, we risk losing ourselves in the pursuit of things that don't truly matter. Now, don't get me wrong. Pleasure itself isn't a bad thing. It's part of being human to enjoy life's simple joys. Good food, laughter with friends, or a beautiful sunset. But the Stoics warned against letting pleasure become your compass. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, put it bluntly, "Pleasure, when it is unchecked, enslaves us." Here's the problem. When you live for pleasure alone, you're constantly chasing the next dopamine hit. You end up prioritizing short-term gratification over long-term fulfillment. Think about it. How often have you spent hours doing something mindless, only to feel empty or unproductive afterward? That's because pleasure without purpose doesn't fill you up. It drains you. Let's look at a modern example. Say you have a big goal. You want to start a business, write a book, or get in shape. But instead of working toward it, you spend your time binge-watching Netflix or endlessly scrolling TikTok. Why? Because chasing your purpose takes effort, discipline, and sometimes discomfort. Pleasure, on the other hand, is easy. It's right there, offering a quick escape from the hard stuff. But here's the thing. The hard stuff is where real growth happens. The Stoics believed that a life of purpose, a life where you're striving for something meaningful, leads to true happiness. Marcus Aurelius said, "Just as nature takes every obstacle, every impediment, and works around it, turns it to its purposes, so too a rational being can turn each setback into raw material for their own progress." In other words, the pursuit of purpose isn't always easy, but it's what shapes you into the best version of yourself. So how do we stop prioritizing pleasure and start living with purpose? 1. Define your why. Take a moment to ask yourself what really matters to you. Is it building a career you're proud of? Strengthening your relationships? Making a positive impact on the world? Write it down and use it as your North Star. 2. Create discipline in your daily life. Start small. If you want to build a purposeful routine, set aside time each day for things that move you closer to your goals, even if it's just 15 minutes. 3. Limit distractions. Identify the pleasures that are stealing your time, whether it's social media, excessive entertainment, or unhealthy habits, and set boundaries for them. When you focus on purpose over fleeting pleasures, you'll notice something amazing. The things that once distracted you lose their power. Instead, you'll feel a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing that you're working towards something bigger than yourself. Sign 6. Neglecting education and personal growth. Here's a hard truth. If you're not growing, you're stagnating. The Stoics were passionate advocates for continuous learning, and they believed that wisdom is a lifelong journey. Neglecting your education and personal growth, whether it's intellectual, emotional, or spiritual, is a surefire sign of a lack of wisdom. Now, when I say education, I'm not just talking about formal schooling or fancy degrees. The Stoics weren't interested in how many letters you had after your name. They cared about whether you were actively seeking knowledge and striving to improve yourself. Seneca said, "As long as you live, keep learning how to live." In other words, life itself is the ultimate classroom. But here's the problem. Too many people stop learning once they reach a certain point. Maybe they graduate, get a steady job, or settle into their daily routines, and they think, "I'm good. I've learned enough." But the truth is, the moment you stop challenging yourself, you stop growing. And the Stoics believed that growth is essential to living a meaningful, fulfilling life. Why do people neglect personal growth? One reason is comfort. It's easy to stay in your bubble, doing what you've always done, and avoiding anything that feels hard or unfamiliar. Another reason is fear. Fear of failure, fear of being wrong, or fear of stepping into the unknown. But here's what the Stoics would tell you. Staying comfortable might feel safe, but it's also the biggest obstacle to reaching your potential. Think about it. How often do we avoid trying something new because we're afraid we won't be good at it? Or how often do we dismiss opportunities to grow because we think we're too busy or too old to learn? These excuses might feel valid in the moment, but they're holding us back from becoming the best versions of ourselves. So how do we embrace education and personal growth, Stoic style? 1. Adopt a beginner's mindset. The Stoics believed in humility, the idea that no matter how much you know, there's always more to learn. Approach life with curiosity and openness, and don't be afraid to ask questions or admit when you don't know something. 2. Challenge yourself daily. Growth doesn't happen by accident. Push yourself to step outside your comfort zone, whether it's learning a new skill, reading a challenging book, or having conversations that expand your perspective. 3. Seek out mentors and role models. The Stoics often looked to wise teachers for guidance. Find people who inspire you, whether they're in your personal life or thought leaders you admire, and learn from their experiences. 4. Reflect on your progress. The Stoics were big on self-reflection. Take time to journal or meditate on what you've learned, what you've struggled with, and how you've grown. This helps reinforce your commitment to lifelong learning. When you make education and personal growth a priority, you're not just adding knowledge to your life, you're transforming who you are. You become more adaptable, more resilient, and more capable of handling whatever life throws your way. And here's the best part. When you grow, you inspire others to do the same. Your journey becomes a ripple effect, encouraging the people around you to step up and reach for more. Sign 7. Arrogance and overconfidence. Let's face it, arrogance is one of the most unappealing traits someone can have, and according to Stoic wisdom, it's a clear sign of a lack of true understanding. Why? Because arrogance and overconfidence blind us to our flaws, making it impossible to grow. The Stoics believed that wisdom begins with humility, the recognition that no matter how much you know, there's always more to learn. Epictetus captured this perfectly when he said, "It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows. If you're convinced you're always right, how can you ever improve?" Arrogance isn't a sign of strength. It's a mask for insecurity, a way of protecting ourselves from the discomfort of being wrong or vulnerable. We've all met someone who acts like they have all the answers. Maybe it's a coworker who dominates every meeting or a friend who dismisses other opinions without even listening. While they might come across as confident, deep down, arrogance often stems from fear. Fear of being seen as weak, unprepared, or uninformed. But here's the thing. Overconfidence doesn't lead to wisdom or respect. It alienates people, stunts personal growth, and creates a false sense of superiority. In contrast, the Stoics teach us that humility is the foundation of true strength. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most powerful men in history, constantly reminded himself to stay humble. He wrote, "Do not think yourself too wise. Rather, admit that you have much to learn." So how do we combat arrogance and foster humility? 1. Practice self-reflection. Take time to question your assumptions and examine your actions. Ask yourself, was I really listening, or was I just waiting for my turn to speak? 2. Seek feedback. Surround yourself with people who will challenge you and point out your blind spots. True strength comes from being open to constructive criticism. 3. Embrace lifelong learning. Whether it's reading, asking questions, or trying something new, always be willing to grow. The more you learn, the more you'll realize how much there is to discover. The irony is, the wisest people are often the ones who appear the most humble. They don't need to prove themselves because they're secure in who they are. By replacing arrogance with humility, you not only gain wisdom, but also earn the respect and trust of those around you. Sign 8. Envy and resentment. Let's talk about a poison that's all too common: envy and resentment. These emotions are like weeds. They grow quietly, choking out happiness and peace of mind. And according to Stoic wisdom, they're clear signs of a lack of understanding. The Stoics believe that envy arises when we compare ourselves to others and focus on what we lack rather than what we have. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Don't waste time thinking about what others have or what they do better than you. Look inward and focus on your own path." Here's the problem with envy. It puts your attention on things you can't control. You can't control how successful someone else is, how much money they make, or how they look. And when you obsess over these comparisons, you're not only wasting energy, but also robbing yourself of joy. Resentment is the other side of the coin. It's what happens when you hold on to anger and bitterness, blaming others for your unhappiness. But as the Stoics taught, resentment only hurts the person holding on to it. Seneca said, "Anger, if not restrained, is often more harmful to us than the injury that provokes it." Let me give you an example. Imagine you're scrolling through social media and you see a friend posting about their amazing vacation or new promotion. Instead of feeling happy for them, you feel a pang of jealousy. You start comparing their life to yours, thinking, "Why don't I have that?" Life's not fair. That envy eats away at your peace, but it doesn't change anything about your situation. The Stoics believe the antidote to envy and resentment is gratitude and self-focus. When you shift your attention to your own blessings and progress, you take back control of your emotions. Here's how to let go of envy and resentment. 1. Practice gratitude daily. Write down 3 things you're thankful for every day, no matter how small. Gratitude rewires your brain to focus on abundance instead of lack. 2. Stay in your own lane. Remind yourself that everyone's journey is different. Someone else's success doesn't diminish your own potential. 3. Release grudges. If you're holding on to resentment, ask yourself, is this helping me or is it holding me back? Forgiveness doesn't mean excusing bad behavior. It means freeing yourself from the weight of anger. By letting go of envy and resentment, you create space for genuine happiness and self-growth. You stop measuring your worth against others and start focusing on what truly matters, your own journey. Conclusion: the path to wisdom and growth. So what does all of this mean for us? The beauty of Stoic wisdom is that it challenges us to look inward, not with harsh judgment, but with curiosity and humility. None of us are immune to these habits. They're part of being human. The goal isn't to eliminate every flaw overnight or strive for some unattainable perfection. Instead, it's about progress. It's about asking ourselves, how can I be better today than I was yesterday? The Stoics remind us that wisdom isn't a destination. It's a practice. It's the small, deliberate steps we take every day to align our actions with our values, to focus on what we can control, and to release the things that don't serve us. By doing this, we create lives that are richer, more grounded, and filled with a sense of purpose. Remember, it's not about where you are now, it's about where you're headed. Growth is a journey, and every moment offers an opportunity to choose a wiser, more fulfilling path. The question is, will you take it?